Come closer. What I'm about to tell you isn't for everyone. I know that sounds like an opening line, but it isn't. This video found you before you went to sleep tonight, and that wasn't an accident. Something has been waiting for this exact moment of your evening to find you, and what I'm about to say I can't say loudly. You felt it in the last few hours. Not exactly fear, not exactly anticipation, something between the two, as if someone were near. Not a person exactly, more like a presence. You walked past a doorway in your home and something made you stop. You looked again at the room and there was nothing there. You went back to what you were doing and the feeling stayed. You know what I'm talking about. It's not the first time, it just happened to be stronger tonight. Tonight someone was sent to your side, chosen one, not figuratively, literally. A visitor, carrying a message with your name on it. And what I saw about who this person is, what they wore, the gesture they made with their right hand, the 3 words they brought you. You didn't arrive here because of an algorithm. Algorithms don't know the exact hour when heaven sends someone to listen to you. Heaven knows, heaven sent, and heaven brought this video to you, to confirm. You're not here as a curious viewer scrolling past. You're here as the chosen one who needed this exact word at this exact hour. That difference is everything. Now I want you to think about the last 72 hours, not in a hurry, slowly, because there have been signs, and you tried to dismiss them. The dog who suddenly stared fixed at an empty corner of the room and wouldn't move. The cat who hissed at nothing and arched her back. Animals see what we forget how to see. They were the first to notice the visitor was already in the house. You thought it was strange. You thought maybe she heard a sound outside. You moved on. But something in you registered it. There was the night, 3 or 4 nights ago, when you woke up at an hour with no clear cause. No bad dream, no noise from the street. Just your eyes open, suddenly, and your body knowing that something had shifted. You looked at the clock and the numbers were strange. Maybe they repeated. 3 2s, 4 1s, a combination you'd already seen the day before, in a totally different place. You told yourself it was coincidence. You went back to sleep with difficulty. But you remember, there was the person who entered your life recently in a way you can't quite explain. Someone you met in the last few weeks, or who came back into your life after years away, and the timing made no sense. Like a piece arriving on a board that hadn't been set up yet. You felt the click and didn't know why. You're still trying to understand. There was the name that came to your mind before sleep on one of these recent nights. A name you don't know. A name you're not expecting. It came whole. Like someone whispered it, inches from your ear, and then stepped back. You opened your eyes in the dark. You tried to remember who could have said it. You couldn't. The name didn't come from your memory. It came from somewhere else. There was the moment you opened your phone and saw the same numbers again. 1111, 1234, 222. You used to scroll past those. Lately you've been pausing. Lately something inside has been saying, look carefully. The numbers aren't random. They're a doorman knocking. And the door belongs to a chosen one whose visit is about to begin. And right now, as I'm telling you all this, someone is standing at your side. Not in metaphor. The visitor is already in the room with you. You don't see them because they came in the way visitors of this kind come in, quietly, without disturbing, carrying something. And tonight is the night the message gets delivered. You just don't know yet who the visitor is. If what I've said up to this point touched something you already knew but couldn't name, leave a quiet like below. That like isn't for the algorithm. That like is a whisper back, a way of saying, I heard you. A quiet yes to the word that just arrived. And I'll pray softly right now that every soul who affirms this word tonight receives, in the next 72 hours, a concrete confirmation from the visitor, a sign, a name, a small detail that fits. So you know it wasn't a coincidence. If what I just said is making your chest tighten in that specific way, if you felt the recognition slide down your spine while I was speaking, then you need to know there's a whole letter waiting for you. And it has your name on it. I gathered everything I'm about to tell you here, and much more that I cannot say loudly in this video, in an intimate devotional called Letters from Heaven. 3 letters, one about who you are in heaven's eyes, one about what's already been marked to arrive at your door, and one about how to recognize the moment when the visitor draws near so you don't miss the second when it happens. The third letter is the one I most want you to read tonight, because the visitor is already here, and the recognition you have left for tonight is what determines what comes through. It's all in the first comment below this video, pinned, waiting for the moment you decide to open it. Now stay here with me a moment longer, because there's something I want you to see before we go further. Picture a quiet room at this hour, a lamp left on, a book half open on a table, a presence standing near the door, not interrupting, just watching. Watching with the patience of someone who has waited a long time to arrive. In the old letters it was written, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." That isn't decoration. That's an architecture. That's the way the invisible works around you every single night, and especially tonight. There are guards, there are messengers, there are visitors who came knowing your address before you knew you needed them. You haven't been alone. Not on the worst nights. Not on the nights you sat at the kitchen table and stared at the wall and asked silently if anyone was listening. Someone was. Someone has always been. The difference tonight is that the listening has crossed over. Tonight the listener became the speaker. Tonight the one who watched stepped forward to deliver. That's why the air feels different. That's why the dog stared. That's why you woke up. The invisible has moved closer to the visible, and the gap between the two is almost gone. I need you to understand something now. Everything you felt in the last 72 hours wasn't anxiety. It wasn't your imagination compensating for loneliness. It wasn't a phase you're going through. It was the body recognizing what was already on its way. Heaven prepares before it delivers. It always has. The mother knows the visitor is coming before the doorbell rings. The animal knows before the door opens. The child wakes up before the parent walks into the room. The body, when it's been hollowed enough by waiting, becomes a kind of antenna. And yours has been receiving for days now. You just couldn't read what it was receiving. The visitor that was sent to your side tonight is not random. The visitor is what Scripture has called, in many languages, a guardian angel, a messenger of God. Not a generic one, not the picture you saw in a children's Bible. The one assigned to you, specifically, from the hour you were knit together. The one who has stood in places you don't remember anymore and held your shoulder when you almost fell. The one who whispered the no when you were about to take the wrong door. The one who whispered the yes when you were about to walk away from what was meant for you. That same one. And tonight, that messenger has been sent forward, not to guard quietly anymore, but to deliver. The scripture for this is short and old. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Hebrews 13 verse 2 in the ESV. That word, unawares, is the key. Unawares is exactly the state most people are in when the visitor arrives. They felt something. They didn't know what it was. They served the stranger anyway, or they ignored him, and only later, sometimes much later, did they understand who had been at the table. You will not be unaware tonight. Tonight you are being told before the visit completes its delivery, who is standing at your side. Now I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a room. It looked like your home, but I'm not going to describe the layout because the layout doesn't matter. It was a room where you have been this week in a moment of distraction or sleep. The visitor entered through what I can only describe as a softening of the air, the way light bends just before a candle is lit. He stood near you, and the first thing I noticed was the color of what he wore. A deep, deep blue. Not the blue of a uniform, not the blue of a flag. The blue of the deepest hour of the night sky, just before it begins to turn. That's the color. If a piece of fabric of that color crosses your day in the next week, in a photo, in a passing car, in something a stranger is wearing, that's a sign. That's the visitor pressing his color against your eye to confirm. His right hand moved. It was a single gesture. I saw it clearly. I'm not going to describe it in full here, because the gesture is one of the seals of the letter, and saying it aloud in this video would dilute the moment when you read the page that holds it. But I'll tell you this. It was a gesture of giving, not of pointing, not of warning, of giving. Something was being placed near you in stillness, with the patient intention that you would, in your own time, reach out and take it. And then, I heard the message. I heard the words. He carried 3 words for you. 3 exact words. 3 words that fit you so precisely that when you read them, you will sit down quietly wherever you are, and you will know that no one could have invented this for you. Those 3 words can only be said in full in the letter. Not because I'm hiding them from you to manipulate you, because the 3 words are the seal between you and what's coming, and seals lose their force when they're broken in public. The letter is the private room. The letter is where the seal is unbroken until you open it. What I can tell you is the shape of the 3 words. They are not a command. They are not a warning. They are an identification. They name you by the part of yourself you've kept most hidden, the part you thought no one in heaven had bothered to learn. That part has a name now. That part has been written down. That part is what the visitor carries on the page in his hand, and when you read it, you will recognize yourself the way you recognize your own face after years of not looking at a mirror in good light. This is the scene that was delivered tonight, a room, a deep blue, a right hand, 3 words, the chosen one named. What I just gave you is real. You can close this video right now and that scene will go on living in your head. But I have to be honest with you, intimate as I can be, a single scene is not the whole story. A truncated detail is not the name that came after it. I gave you 1 visit, but the letter has 3 pages. You don't need another sign. You need to receive the message the visitor has already carried to you. This video was the initial whisper. The arrival confirmed. The I see you, I heard you. But the full letter begins where this video ends. 3 pages, each one with its own detail, its own name, its own scene. And none of them can be said aloud here. This isn't a generic devotional. It isn't another reflection to add to a pile of reflections you've already collected. It's 3 letters written for someone who received a specific sign and who now needs the name, the date, the detail that confirms. Not to convince you, to confirm what you already know. The first letter is about who you are in heaven's eyes, with name, with mission, with the sign that confirms you as the chosen one heaven has been calling, so you can look in the mirror in the morning and finally see what's been there the whole time. That letter is the one that ends the long ache of suspecting you were meant for something you couldn't quite see. It puts a name on it. It puts a mark on it. It tells you what it is. The second letter is about what's marked to arrive, with detail, who the visitor is by name, the full color of the clothing, the exact gesture his right hand made, the complete phrase he's carrying, the thing that's been moved on your behalf in the invisible, and the specific shape of how it's going to land in your visible life. You have wondered about this in the dark, alone, for longer than you've admitted. The second letter ends that wondering. And the third letter is about how to recognize the moment, the signs that will come in the days before, the people who will appear with messages they don't even know they're carrying, the synchronicities, the numbers, the small confirmations heaven scatters in the hours before the visit completes itself, so that you don't miss the right second when the visitor draws fully near and the message becomes audible. Most people miss the moment. The third letter is, so you don't. You don't need spiritual gifts. You don't need to understand symbology. You don't need to have been raised in any particular tradition. It was written for someone who simply wants to recognize what's already arriving. Letters from Heaven is pinned in the first comment of this video. Those who need it know they need it. Whoever made it this far in this video did not make it this far by chance. Before this video ends, I want to ask you something quietly. Write in the comments your first name and your city. Not curiosity. I'm mapping where these letters are touching soul, where heaven is moving house by house in each quiet corner. And next to your name, write 3 words. I am listening. That's the seal. And if you know someone who needs to receive a sign the way you just did, send this video to them. Every share is a letter arriving at the right door. Letters from Heaven will stay there in the pinned comment. This envelope has no deadline, no fabricated urgency. Heaven doesn't work with pressure. But I'll tell you something quietly, and you know it's true. A revelation we keep postponing often turns into longing, not from lack of wanting, from the habit of delaying what matters most. You decide when. Tonight, tomorrow morning, next week. The letter will be there, with your name on it. And the visitor who stood at your side tonight in that deep blue with his right hand extended toward you will still be there too. Patient, waiting for the page to be opened. because the visit is already complete on his side. Only your side has yet to receive, and may this word find you exactly where you needed to hear it. May heaven keep speaking softly, and may you keep listening. Until the next letter.